Um, Glad to meet you, and also glad to see some familiar faces from last year from the winter school. I guess I'm one of the few participants that also participated in the winter school last year. So great to meet you again. So let's go to the second slide.
Well, I don't know why it's not working.
Maybe you can just push the, yeah, exactly. So as you saw in the first slide, we are going to cover the artificial intelligence as our topic, and we would compare the European aspects and the Chinese aspect of the current AI policies, respectively. So our team is, you can go back to the slide. Yeah, let's introduce ourselves. Our team consists of myself from Ayangaku University. Actually, I'm currently belong to University of Essex in the UK, but I will represent Ayangaku University. And here's Noemi, if you want to say something.
Yeah, what can I say? Hi, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. Thanks a lot to Veronica for her patience. And yeah, I'm a master's student in Bologna. I already have a master from Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So this is my second master. And yeah, I guess this also explains why we all decided to focus on China instead of the entire Asia, because of time constraints and because I guess China is the interest of all of us.
Great, and Sophia as well. And if you want to say something, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also part of the Asian Club. I'm a Russian in Italy trying to study China. So, and it's an amazing opportunity for me to be here. And I would love, we already discussed it with Ken and Noemi, we would love to meet next year or the year after in Japan, perhaps, to see each other alive and work on something more touchable than this presentation.
Great. So I forgot to mention, but I mainly study social data science. You also covers artificial intelligence. So that's why we want to cover this topic and add the European and also the Chinese perspective about it. So let's go to the next slide. Great. So here's our presentation outline. First, I would introduce what is the artificial intelligence, the definition of it, and the use of AI during the COVID-19 situation, and then global policies on AI, a general perspective, and then we go to the Chinese context of it. Sophia will be introducing it, and the European context, which Noemi would have a presentation on it. And then lastly, cover the future implication of AI in the post-COVID era and potential future collaboration between Europe and China. Next slide, please. So we would like to start from the definition of artificial intelligence. An easy definition is a wide-ranging branch of the computer science concerned with building smart machines capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. This sounds a little bit difficult, but in other words, artificial intelligence may not be something you imagine. It's not a super machine or something. It's not rocket science, actually. Some artificial intelligence are very easy to create, such as using statistical, some are based on statistics or some are based on text analytics, but some artificial intelligence are pretty complex, like an easy example would be like Siri on the iPhone. So it varies. So artificial intelligence, I want you to remember that artificial intelligence doesn't mean it's a super machine or something. And artificial intelligence is applying to various industries such as manufacturing, transportation, health, education. So some example of transportation would be definitely automatic driving cars. And for health, it could be computer vision to analyze a lot of medical related image and determine who has a cancer or not or something. That are some common use cases. Currently the market value of artificial intelligence is approximately 38 million globally, but McKinsey Global Institute basically claims that AI could add 13 trillion to global output by 2030. So it's going to be a growing market with a lot of increasing attention towards it. Let's go to the next slide. So how has AI impacted during COVID-19? So the application of artificial intelligence were mainly in the healthcare sector. So during vaccine development, many research labs use machine learning to come up with solutions for vaccines, and also it was commonly used for tracking the spread of the virus, forecasting virus and next eruption. And it could be used as assistance to healthcare personnel and source of information for policymakers as well. And let's go to the next slide. So next, the international context of AI policies before heading towards the EU perspective and Chinese perspective is that the emergence of artificial intelligence policies in the past decade, and majority of the AI policies launched by governments has been since 2015. You will see China especially started to launch AI policies since 2015. And the major powers in the international relations are competing in the AI industry, basically allocating their national resource and developing additional human resource that is strong in STEM is what's happening at this moment. And competition between China and the US has been increasing in the previous years, and aggressive corporate development by global tech companies has been observed. So a general trend is government either tend to pursue policies for aggressive technological development or human-centric implementation of artificial intelligence. So that's an aspect to remind. And artificial intelligence policies are basically contains huge economic interest incentives and thus accelerates technological development. And there are social concerns that motivates for ethical and human-centric approach for artificial intelligence as well. So let's go towards the Chinese perspective first of the artificial intelligence.
Ken? No, you're done?
Oh yeah, you can go, Sophia, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, here, this is a part of Ken's work because he wrote an amazing article on the policies of the EU and China. And here we can see the most important ones. So the Made in China 2025 that we've all heard about, the Internet Plus plan, the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Development Plan, and they are all focusing on achieving a very big step ahead in the competition around the world. And so China is, the peculiar thing about China is that the government is supporting the sector very much. So instead of just market competition, here the government is supporting the sector, developing pilot zones, special economic zones where this is growing. And this is how it is speeding up the growth much more than in the Western world. Noemi, can we switch to my slide now, please? Thank you. So yes, we decided to look at the Chinese perspective also through a lens of Confucianism, because instead of looking at the data, we wanted to show you how it is growing according to the Chinese culture. Because Confucianism, we have to remember that it has two definitions. So it stands for the school of Confucius thought, and the more kind of pop culture term that characterizes the whole Chinese society overall with all of its traits. And this connection has a certain truth in it, because really Confucianism has been dominating the Chinese society for more than 2,000 years. And it has developed certain traits that we can call under one culture. also because of the history of how Confucianism was born, because we need to understand that Confucius was writing at the time of the weakening of the Eastern Zhou state and its disintegration. And Confucius wanted to develop clear social structures to save the decomposing society. So he didn't develop any new concepts, but he captured existing traditions to help save them and stop the disintegration of the state. And this is why we turn to them to understand how AI is being developed in China right now, why it works so well, why it is growing so fast. And this helps our understanding and how to develop our own AI structures around the world and join in this competition. So here we see the Sangang Wuchang, the 3 bonds and 5 virtues, kind of principal concept of Confucianism. There's more virtues, but I just took the ones that are of interest for us because there's no clear concept overall. And so the 3 fundamental relations that Confucianism is based on are the father and the son, the lord and retainer, husband and wife. And we see a clear hierarchy here achieved through filial piety, through obedience, loyalty. And what is crucial here is that this authority has to be earned by the dominating side. So the obedience is not just there because of the status, but the authority has to be earned through being virtuous and compassionate. And this is essential to understanding the legitimacy of the Chinese government and its internal policies and external policies. So this is basically what a big part of the Chinese society is based on: hierarchy, but through virtuous ruling. So next to the the virtues that I will mention is filial piety. For example, high respect for family, ancestors, and thus traditions. So you have to keep the traditions. And a problem with this is that it stops the progress a bit. So, and there has been some historical issues for this reason with Confucianism stopping progress, but this is also a part of the culture. Loyalty to the family, the government, the society, because since they serve you well, they protect you, you have to reciprocate the virtues. Benevolence, as in compassion. So you have to be the part of what holds the society together. You have to reciprocate the kindness. You have to hold the structure around you. So you, your family, your friends, your community, your nation, and perhaps, you know, the humanity. Peace is another essential concept, because peace in Confucianism is opposed to war. So it's an important part of Chinese statesmanship too, because preventing war is important. Peaceful diplomacy, soft power, if you wish. And all of these have another side, because the ruler too, as I said, is obliged to follow these to gain authority and be legitimate. Because historically, rulers could be overthrown in China if they were unsatisfactory. And the mandate to rule was given in a somewhat democratic way, if we can call it so, to a virtuous ruler, a chosen one by the nation. I know there's a lot of discussions between Japan and China on what's better historically. And this is a problematic issue right now too, because perhaps standing up to the government will be harder with AI, with artificial intelligence being incorporated into government control. I mean, it's kind of an unequal battle now. So this brings us to the actual policies being implemented in China. Noemi, next slide, please. Thank you very much. So it's a growing market. The compound annual growth rate has been around 50% from 2015 to 2020. So adding half of the industry each year, it's quite impressive. Like anything that China tries to develop, it's very impressive. And so the goals that Ken wrote down earlier, they are really being achieved. The Made in China 2025 is really working. And so from the Confucianist point of view, we see that we need a virtuous ruler, so the nation will be loyal. We need peace and security, and this legitimizes what the government is implementing. So the policies, the most widely discussed is the digital government. So it's a top-down policy that provides control and security, control over the society and security for the society. One part of this is called smart governance. So through unified platforms, facial recognition, which helps creating the infamous social credit system that we have heard, most of us have probably heard of. Um, Public security, also cameras that are intelligently functioning in real time, for example, for crime prevention. So it definitely has a very beneficial point, you know, actually achieving this wide crime prevention is would be unthinkable before, but it is possible now. But it definitely has its worst sides because everyone can be controlled and watched by the government. So the Chinese society abides because this control is kind of part of the political culture, and moreover, it is aimed at providing security. So it is a virtue. Next, healthcare, especially important in the past year, and combined with the previous policies, it gave an amazing system of tracking diseases, both through phones, through facial recognition. You could exactly see how the virus was being spread. Apart from this, healthcare is also being developed, for example, through automatic provision of medical diagnosis with treatment plans, much faster than doctors. Medical image recognition, this has been used a lot this year with lung scans because it does it in a second instead of a doctor taking a few minutes of their time, you know, to analyze. Virtual nursing, online medical consultation, all used in 2020 and have a big future in China and in the world. One problem here, though, is the security of patients' data. Yes, well, the security of data is always a problem. Finance is also an important thing. It expands financial services to groups beyond the traditional wealthy. Automatic evaluation of clients' financial positions, analytics to provide customized recommendations, also related to virtuous ruling, because you're bringing prosperity to the nation, and that brings you legitimacy to govern. Retail, smart mobility, kind of commercial policies, more commercial products, so less controlled by the government. And security is what bothers all of the world because it means inserting artificial intelligence into weapons. And because we do not know yet whether these developments will be used in a peaceful or not so peaceful way, we have to be aware that this is happening. And another interesting thing here is on the illustration on the right, the love for tradition, this what I mentioned earlier, is still what stops China from being as creative and as novel as it is traditional for the West, because China is still behind in statistically behind in research and developing the fundamental parts of AI, because as we see on the illustration, we can divide the industrial chain into 3 levels. So the basic level, which means mostly chips, sensors, big data computing development. And this fundamental part, China is still a bit behind. It is the hardest part and has to be creating novelty, starting from scratch. So the West is still a bit running ahead, and maybe not just the West, but other societies with a less connection to their traditions. So technology layer is the algorithm framework development. It's like computer vision, speech recognition, language processing, what Ken mentioned. So this is a bit better. It's growing right now actively. And the most developed sector is the third layer, the application layer, where AI provides targeted products, services, and solutions commercially as well, often. And so China is still behind in developing AI, perhaps to the benefit of the West, because I watched a recent interview with Kissinger, and he said that the future of the competition between China and the rest, if I may say so, depends on who will be ahead in artificial intelligence development. So it will define the outcome of the competition of the different world. Next slide, please, Noemi. Here we just see the Chinese social credit system, the one that I mentioned, one of the most popular, I think, most often discussed in the media aspects of AI in China. And it truly covers every aspect of life. And this is a bit worrisome to us, because in this interconnected world, you really don't know who's watching you and where your data is going. So we see how these policies match Chinese culture, how they can be used to control the society easily, how they are not considered illegitimate that much in China. And this poses a problem for societies with different values, with other values. And we see also that the threat of the usage of AI in weapons can bring a real threat. And even though conceptually China should be peaceful. Well, and moreover, we see that China is focusing, as it always does, on practice rather than on regulation, because Confucianist trustworthiness is more important than sufficient regulation. And speaking of regulation, here we come to the European perspective with Noemi. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sofia. So now I'm going to introduce the European perspective to see which is the difference between Europe and China. So comparing with the Chinese understanding of AI application, the European perspective is more ethical and human-centric. So there is a big emphasis on the regulation, on the policies, and the European values apply to artificial intelligence. So we have some examples of the policies that have been developed. For example, the civil law rules on robotic in 2016, and the statement on artificial intelligence, robotic and autonomous system in 2018. And that is the last proposal that came out in 2020, and another one came out in 2021. So it's super new. The EU is still lagging behind China and the US when we're talking about artificial intelligence. And this is due to some factors, like, for example, the internal fragmentation of the European Union between member states, or the difficulties that European Union has in attracting foreign capitals or foreign talents. But if we want to summarize the understanding of EU in the field of AI, we can use this sentence from the EU Commission, that basically they said that if the European Union is to be international competitive, it must carry these values to the global stage. So these values are referring to the European values. So we can say that the European Union knows which are his problematics in this field. And for this reason, as in many other fields, the European Union is trying to promote an imagine of values that have to be applied, a sort of human-centric vision. So, for example, Floridi said that EU has to use a soft digital ethics, as we all know that the soft skills, the soft diplomacy, is what EU is famous in the world for. So which are the main points that EU is focused on? Basically the identity, the human dignity, the privacy. So there is the big attention of regulations on privacy, on the protection of data. Equity, that stands for a fair society. The thing is that in Europe, Europe is a democracy, right? So the governments must take into consideration the idea, the values of the civil groups. So it is a prominent aspect, the fact that artificial intelligence has to be fair with the entire society, with minority groups, as well with the main population. An example can be the facial recognition that up to now has big problems when it comes to people race. For example, artificial intelligence was designed by white male, so it is easier that it is more efficient in recognizing white males rather than women or black people. So and another important element is the political profiling. We all heard about the case of analytics or Facebook that was kind of guiding the political opinion of the population, and this is an important element that the European Union is trying to regulate before applying artificial intelligence to these fields. So, yeah, to conclude, we see that during the COVID era, the application of AI and the development of AI had undergone a huge improvement. So during this period, the digitalization and the application of artificial intelligence became a really important element for global governments, and in Europe was particularly pushed by the French President Macron and by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. And still, if we could see that both China and the European Union are giving a big importance to this to the application of artificial intelligence, but from different points. So there's the tech innovation and the human-centric designing. And even though we have this kind of dichotomy, these two different ideas and understanding of artificial intelligence, both European Union and China declared that they are open to international collaboration, and we could identify two main areas for this cooperation. For example, the research, the talent, the industrial policies, so everything that is more related to economic, to industrial policies, and how to do it by, for example, improving the number of AI programs or STEM study at school, the ethics, the problem of public data sets, the problem of privacy, and so on. But from the government side, they could also find some elements of cooperation. For example, the application of artificial intelligence in public services, working with international partners, or establishing international public and private partnership to promote a safe use of artificial intelligence. So these are our references, and thank you so much.